And joining us now is Witold Orłowski, economist. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Welcome. Morning.
So the debate about the euro in Poland tends to focus about the intentions. Do we want the euro or do we not want it? However, right now it seems that this latest report actually puts it in stark contrast to that, meaning that before we actually decide whether we want to go forward with it, we need to fulfill these convergence criteria. Seems like for the time being, we're not fulfilling any of them. Do you think it's going to influence our debate in a significant way now?
No, I do not think so. I guess still the main point about Poland and the euro is Poland's readiness and Poles' readiness to accept it rather than the economic conditions. The conditions, I mean, will be perfectly able to meet in 3 years or 4 years. It's not the biggest problem. Well, moreover, if you look at the current criteria, let's say, economic indicators for all the EU countries, you could say that I guess there is hardly any, a few only, that really fulfill. If today they were assessed, including the countries that already have got the euro, then only a small handful of them would fulfill the criteria today. So Poland is not in a special situation. We are not the black sheep. It just happened over the last 3 years. There was a significant deterioration of the public finance practically everywhere, of the public finance stance, the outbreak of the inflation almost everywhere. So this is nothing special about Poland. In a sense, the funny thing is that if you are inside the Eurozone, then you are no longer assessed this way. I mean, nobody's making this type of report. The reports are made only about the countries that do not use the euro. I guess a couple of them in Europe. So it's not a reason for any panic. We have been fulfilling practically all the economic criteria for many years, and we hadn't applied. We hadn't applied actually for the accession to the Eurozone. Now we do not fulfill the criteria, and still we do not apply. So there's no big change. An economist would say those criteria, it's not something totally artificial. I mean, it's really good not to have too big public debt, not to have too high inflation, so on and so on. So actually, independently of either Poland wants to join the Eurozone in the near future or not, we've got to fight the inflation, we've got to reduce the deficit, we've got to keep the debt under control. Let me remind you that the Eurozone requires its member states to have a debt to GDP ratio below 60%. And actually, Poland has got 50% now. Majority of the EU countries have got more than, the Eurozone countries have got more than 60%. But we've also got 60% in the constitution. So coming back to the point, it's not that we've got to curb the public debt because the union requires us to do so, or because we want so badly to join the Eurozone. Even if we don't, we should do our best to stop the increase of the public debt.
And like you mentioned, there are a couple of issues that have to be discussed. And I would want to turn our attention to now the exchange rate stability, because Poland's exchange rate mechanism participation has shown some instability with it, which is a critical requirement for Eurozone entry. If Poland wants to demonstrate a stable exchange rate over now the 2 years before joining the Eurozone, then it must fulfill it. But still, the fluctuations in the Polish zloty, I feel like, have posed some challenges. So what are the main factors, to your mind, now contributing to the volatility of the Polish zloty, and how can they be mitigated?
No, it's more complex because, in fact, if you look at the last couple of years, and I would say the Polish zloty is surprisingly stable. There are some fluctuations, but the European exchange rate mechanism allows for fluctuations plus minus 15%. So either Poland hasn't break the rule, or if so, then only marginally. Moreover, in the direction of strengthening of the zloty recently, and the rules in the EU are that only weakening of the currency is considered an error. And moreover, Poland did not have any active policy of counteracting the fluctuation. We are using the flexible exchange mechanism, means we've got a lot of the foreign exchange reserves. With them, we could stabilize the exchange rate, but our central bank is not doing it because it's not a target at that moment. So I do not see the stability of the exchange rate as a major problem. We've got the problem with the inflation. We've got the problem of the excessive deficit. As a result of the high inflation, higher deficit, we obviously have got a bit too high interest rates, and that force economic criterion for the participation. But the exchange rate, the problem with the exchange rate is different one. That it's not enough not to have too much fluctuation that Poland could satisfy. Yes, the problem is that you must formally involve your country or currency into the formal mechanism of the exchange rate stabilization, the ERM2 so-called, and Poland never did it. So in the case of Poland, the discussion is not really about the fluctuations of the exchange rate. The discussion is rather about the fact that Poland never made this declaration of keeping the exchange rate relatively stable and never used any tool to do it. Given this fact, I would say it's what, as I said, is rather surprisingly stable currency over last years rather than unstable.
So from this, the picture that seems to emerge is that it's less about economic indicators at this stage, more about the political will. And now, when looking at both the government, looking also at the central bank, would you say that at this very stage, all the entities that would need to get involved are capable and willing to do that? Would you say that this process can begin? Because you've mentioned it could be accomplished within a couple of years, but certain preconditions would need to be met, like the mechanism you've just mentioned. So it's not like we can say, for one day we're not doing anything, the next day we're actually going full steam ahead. It requires, I say, a certain amount of preparations. Would you say that right now there is momentum for it, or is Poland likely to sit back and wait as the situation develops?
Obviously, the answer is Poland is not in a rush for joining the Eurozone, and our politicians cannot even make this decision soon, because we've got another problem, that we've got to change the constitution to introduce the euro, or even to start actually this process of adoption of the euro that lasts normally some 3-4 years. I mean, Poland could do it, but the point is there is no sense doing it unless we know that we can join the euro. We cannot, for the time being, join the Eurozone because we've got an article in the constitution telling that the only institution that can issue Polish currency is the National Bank of Poland. It should be changed to the euro, to the European Central Bank. As you know, for changing the constitution, we need something like 2/3 majority in the parliament, and currently we know that something like 45% of seats in the parliament are kept by the parties that say without any hesitance they will not allow for the introduction of the euro. So there is no way in which this parliament, unless some miracle happens, there is no way in foreseeable way in which the parliament can change the constitution at this point over the next couple of years. And if so, then any decision except for kind of expression of the will or anything like that, it cannot be really made. So first, the Poles are still very uneasy about accepting the euro. Secondly, there is no way to change the constitution. As a result, do not expect the government to make any brave statements without the ability to actually implement them.
And now, I do know that you do not have a crystal ball, but I still have to throw it out there now. What is the most likely scenario for Poland going forward, to your mind?
Well, I guess what Poland will do is that the government will express its will to join somewhere in the future the Eurozone. For the time being, the previous government and the central bank, current central bank, were rather making the statements about that they will not allow Poland to join the Eurozone. That's, by the way, against all the treaties that we were to sign, because we already signed the treaty that we joined the Eurozone by joining the European Union without setting any specific date. So I guess the government will make some general comment, some general statement about the fact that Poland sees in the future, whenever the political conditions and the economic conditions allow to join the Eurozone, rather than telling we don't want the euro at all. And then we will have to wait for the elections that bring us a majority capable of changing the constitution and paving the road for the euro adoption. How rapidly, how fast it can happen, nobody knows. What I'm absolutely sure is that the government should make more of the kind of the information campaign, convincing the people that the euro adoption is not dangerous for them, because the majority of Poles think now it is dangerous for them. So this is what I expect. No big change over the next 3 years. After the new general elections, we will see.
So it's going to be a long and complex debate, and it will require level-headed arguments instead of emotions to be put forward in order to raise awareness of what the benefits and what the possible issues actually are when it comes to the adoption of the euro. Witold Orłowski was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.